1 Kings chapter 9. Now it came to pass when Solomon had finished building the house of Adonai, the royal palace, and all that Solomon was pleased to do, that Adonai appeared to Solomon a second time, just as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. Adonai said to him, I have heard your prayer and your petition that you made before me. I have consecrated this house which you have built, to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there every day. As for you, if you will walk before me as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and uprightness, doing all I commanded you, keeping my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingship over Israel forever, as I promised your father David, saying, You shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. But if you or your sons will indeed turn away from following me, not keeping my mitzvot and my statutes that I set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and this house which I have consecrated for my name I will cast out of my sight. So Israel will become a proverb and a byword among all peoples. This house now so exalted, everyone passing by will gasp in shock and hiss, saying, Why has Adonai done thus to this land and to this house? They will be told, Because they forsook Adonai their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and embraced other gods, worshipped them, and served them. Therefore Adonai has brought all this evil on them. Now at the end of 20 years, during which Solomon had built the two houses, Adonai's house and the royal palace, since King Hiram of Tyre had furnished Solomon with cedar and cypress logs, and with gold for all his desire. In return, King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. So Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities that Solomon had given him, but he was not pleased with them. He said, What are these cities that you've given me, my brother? So they have been called the land of Kabul to this day. Hiram had also sent to the king 120 talents of gold. Now this was the purpose of the forced labor that King Solomon had imposed to build Adonai's house, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up, captured Gezer, burned it with fire, killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city, and given it as a dowry for his daughter, Solomon's wife. So Solomon rebuilt Gezer, Lower Beth-horon, Baalath, and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land, so well as all the storage cities, chariot cities, and cavalry cities, and all that it pleased Solomon to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. As for all the people that were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, even their children who remained in the land after them, whom the children of Israel were not able to destroy utterly, on them Solomon imposed forced labor until this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the children of Israel, for they were the men of war, his servants, his officials, his captains, his charioteers, and his horsemen. These were the chief officers who were over Solomon's work, 550 who supervised the people who did the work. As soon as Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David to her house and built for her, he built the Millo. Now 3 times a year Solomon offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar that he built for Adonai, burning incense with them on the altar that was before Adonai. When he finished the house, King Solomon also built a fleet of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is near Eloth, on the shore of Sea of Reeds in the land of Edom. Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, sailors who knew the sea, along with Solomon's servants. So they went to Ophir and took from there 420 talents of gold and brought it to King Solomon. Chapter 10. Now when the queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon because of the name of Adonai, he came to test him with hard questions. So she came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue with camels carrying spices and gold in great abundance and precious stones. When she came to Solomon, she spoke with him of all that was on her heart. Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was hidden from the king that he did not explain to her. So when the queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon, the palace that he had built, the food at his table, the seating of his courtiers, the attendance of his servants and their attire, his cupbearers and his burnt offerings, which he offered in the house of Adonai, she was left breathless. Then she said to the king, "It was a true report that I heard in my own land of your deed and of your wisdom, but I didn't believe that report until I came and my eyes saw it. Indeed, not even the half was told to me. You're way past the report of wisdom and prosperity that I'd heard. Blessed are your people, blessed are your courtiers, who are standing continually before you, listening to your wisdom. Blessed be Adonai your God, who delighted in you to set you on the throne of Israel. It is because of Adonai's everlasting love for Israel that he made you king to do justice and righteousness." Then he gave the king 120 talents of gold, a great quantity of spices and precious stones. Never again did such abundance of spices come as what the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Also Hiram's ships that brought gold from Ophir brought from Ophir a great quantity of sandalwood and precious stones. The king made from the sandalwood a railing for the house of Adonai, and for the royal palace, and also lyres and harps for the singers. Never again did such quantity of sandalwood come in, nor have they been seen to this day. So King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked for, besides what King Solomon gave her out of his royal bounty. Then she and her servants left and returned to his own land. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, besides what was from the merchants, from the traffic of traders, and from all the kings of Arabah and the governors of the region. King Solomon made 200 full-body shields of beaten gold, 600 shekels of gold on each shield, and 300 small shields of beaten gold, 3 minas of gold on each shield. The king put them in the forest house of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and the throne had a back with a rounded top, and there were armrests on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were standing there on the 6 steps, 6 on each side. Nothing like it had ever been made in any other kingdom. All of King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the forest house of Lebanon were of pure gold. None was of silver. That did not count for anything in the days of Solomon. For the king had a Tarshish fleet at sea with Hiram's fleet. Once every 3 years, the Tarshish fleet came, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in wealth as well as in wisdom. All the earth sought an audience with Solomon to listen to his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. They brought each man his gift, vessels of silver and gold, robes, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, so much year by year. Solomon accumulated chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, and he stationed them in the chariot cities with the king in Jerusalem. Also, the king made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem, and cedars as plentiful as sycamore trees in the foothills. Solomon's horses were brought from Egypt and from Keve. The king's merchants would buy them from Keve at a price. They imported a chariot from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver and a horse for 150. In turn, they were reported to all the kings of Hittites and the kings of Aram. Chapter 11. Now King Solomon loved so many foreign women, besides the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonians, and Hittites, from the nations of whom Adonai had said to the children of Israel, "You shall not associate with them, nor they associate with you, for surely they would turn your heart away from their gods, away after their gods." Solomon clung to them for love. So he had 700 wives as princesses and 300 concubines, and his woman led his heart astray. For it came about as Solomon grew old that his wives led his heart away after other gods, so that his heart has no longer wholly devoted to Adonai his God, unlike the heart of his father David. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. So Solomon did what was evil in the sight of Adonai and did not fully follow after Adonai, unlike his father David. At that time, Solomon also built a high place of Chemosh, the detested thing of Moab, on the mountain near Jerusalem, as well as for Molech, the detested thing of the children of Ammon. Thus he did for all his foreign wives who were burning incense and offering sacrifices to their gods. So Adonai became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from Adonai, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. He had commanded him about this, that he should not go after other gods, yet he did not keep what Adonai had commanded. So Adonai said to Solomon, "Since you have done this, and did not keep my covenant and my statutes that I commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days of David your father's sake, but I will tear it away from the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear away the whole kingdom, but will give one tribe to your son for my servant's sake, my servant David's sake, and for the sake of Jerusalem which I have chosen." Then Adonai raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite of the royal line in Edom. Earlier, when David was at war with Edom, Joab, commander of the army, went up to bury the slain and had struck down every male in Edom. Joab and all Israel remained there 6 months until he had cut off every male in Edom. But Hadad and some Edomites, servants of his father, had fled to Egypt while Hadad was a small boy. Setting out from Midian, they came to Paran and took men from Paran along with them, and went to Egypt to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave him a house, allotted him food, and gave him land. Then Hadad found great favor in Pharaoh's eyes, so that he gave him his own sister-in-law, the sister of Queen Tahpenes, as wife. The sister of Tahpenes gave birth to his son Genubath. Tahpenes weaned him in Pharaoh's palace, and Genubath remained in Pharaoh's palace among Pharaoh's sons. Now when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, commander of the army, was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me leave so I may go to my own country." Then Pharaoh replied to him, "What do you lack with me that all of a sudden you seek to go back to your own country?" "Nothing," he answered. "Nevertheless, let me go anyway." Then God raised up another adversary against him, Rezon, son of Eliada, who had fled from his lord King Hadadezer of Zobach, when David killed them. He had gathered men to himself and became the leader of a marauding band that went to Damascus and dwelt there and gained control in Damascus. Rezon was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, adding to the trouble that was Hadad. He despised Israel while he reigned over Aram. Then there was Jeroboam, son of Nebat. The name of his mother, a widow, was Zeruah, an Ephraimite of Zereda. Though he was Solomon's servant, he also raised a hand against the king. Now the reason that he raised a hand against the king was this: Solomon built the Millo and closed the breach of the city of his father David. Now the man Jeroboam was mighty of strength, and when Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, he appointed him over the entire labor force of the house of Joseph. It was around that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him on the road. Now Ahijah had covered himself in a new cloak, and the two of them were alone in the field. Then Ahijah seized the new cloak that was on him, tore it into 12 pieces, and said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces for yourself, for thus says Adonai, God of Israel, Behold, I will tear the kingdom out of Solomon's hand, and will give 10 tribes to you, but he will have 1 tribe for my servant's sakes, David's sake, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. For they have abandoned me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon. They have not walked in my ways, nor done what is right in my eyes, nor kept my statutes and my ordinances, as his father David did. Nevertheless, I did not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will keep him as a ruler all the days of his life for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, because he kept my mitzvot and my statutes. Yet I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and I will give it to you, the 10 tribes. To his son I will give 1 tribe, so that my servant David may have a lamp every day before me in Jerusalem, the city that I chose for myself to put my name there. So I will take you, and you will reign over all that your soul desires. You will be king over Israel. Then it will be, if you obey everything I command you and walk in my ways and do what is right in my eyes, keeping my statutes and my mitzvot as my servant David did, then I will be with you and establish for you a lasting dynasty as I did for David. I will give Israel to you, so I will for this afflict David's seed, but not for all days. Therefore Solomon sought to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam got up and fled to Egypt, to Shishak king of Egypt. He remained in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did and his wisdom, are they not recorded in the book of the acts of Solomon? So the days of Solomon's kingship in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. Then Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of his father David. And his son Rehoboam was king in his place. Chapter 12. Then Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. Now when Jeroboam son of Nebat heard about it, he was still in Egypt, where he had fled from the face of King Solomon and settled in Egypt. They summoned him, so Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke burdensome. Now therefore lighten the harsh labor of your father and his heavy yoke which he laid on us, and we will serve you. Then he said to them, Go away for 3 more days and then come back to me. So the people departed. Then King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had served his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, How do you advise me to respond to these people? They spoke to him, saying, If you will be a servant to this people today, serving them, granting them their petition, and speaking favorably to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he rejected the counsel the elders had given him, instead consulting with the young men who grew up with him and stood before him. So he asked them, How do you advise me to respond to these people who have spoken to me, saying, Lighten the yoke that your father laid on us? The young men who had grown up with him spoke to him, saying, Thus you should say to these people who spoke to you, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter on us. Thus you should say to them, My little finger is thicker than my father's loins. So now my father laid on you a heavy yoke, and as for me, I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but as for me, I will chastise you with scorpions. Then Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king told them, saying, Come back to me on the 3rd day. The king answered the people harshly. He rejected the counsel the elders had given him, and spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I chastise you with scorpions. So the king did not listen to the people, for it was a turn of events from Adonai fulfilling his word, which Adonai spoke by the hand of Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam son of Nebat. But when all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, the people answered the king, saying, What share have we in David? So inheritance in Jesse's son. To your tents, O Israel. Now look at your own house, David. So the Israelites departed to their tents. But as for the children of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the forced labor, but all Israel stoned him to death. Then King Rehoboam hurried to mount his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. Israel has rebelled against the house of David to this day. Now when all Israel heard that Jeroboam had returned, they summoned him to the assembly and made him king over all Israel. Only the tribe of Judah remained loyal to the house of David. Then Rehoboam arrived in Jerusalem. He assembled all the house of Judah as well as the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 select soldiers, to fight against the house of Israel in order to restore the kingship back to Rehoboam, son of Solomon. But the word of God came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Speak to Rehoboam, son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the rest of the people, saying, Thus says Adonai, you are not to go up or fight against your brothers, the children of Israel. Turn back every man to his own house, for this matter is from me. So they heeded the word of Adonai. They turned and went back according to the word of Adonai. Then Jeroboam rebuilt Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim and resided there. From there he went out and built Penuel. But Jeroboam said in his heart, Now the king may return to the house of David. If this people keep going up to offer sacrifices in the house of Adonai at Jerusalem, then the heart of these people will turn back to their lord, to King Rehoboam, king of Judah. Then they will kill me and return to King Rehoboam of Judah. So the king sought counsel and made 2 golden calves. He said to them, You have been going up to Jerusalem long enough. Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Then he set up one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan. Now this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one even up in Dan. He also made shrines on the high places and appointed priests from among the people who were not sons of Levi. Then Jeroboam instituted a festival in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, imitating the festival that is in Judah. He went up to the altar that he built in Bethel to sacrifice to the calves that he had made. He installed in Bethel the priests of the high places that he made. Then he went up to the altar which he had made in Bethel on the 15th day in the 8th month, in the month of that he had made up from his own heart, and made up a festival for the children of Israel, and went up to the altar to burn incense.